back with Conversations with Therapists. I'm Jennifer Waldsmith, founder of TME Brand Marketing. This is my business partner, Alyssa, head of all things social media. And we are on with one of my most favorite people in private practice, Veronica.
What's up?
Hey. Veronica is a powerhouse. She is a licensed marriage and family therapist. She is the podcast voice behind Empowered and Unapologetic. She has her own coaching business for high achieving women, and I'm talking executive level women who need to deal with their shit. And we will hear all about it. I'm so excited. Before we dive straight into it, Veronica, tell us how you got started in private practice.
So I'm Mexican, right? And my parents didn't believe in therapy, like at all. We all definitely needed therapy, like a whole lot of therapy. However, it was non-existent. Growing up, I was always good at like giving advice. And I thought that's exactly what therapists do, right? We give advice. Well, only to find out when I actually became a therapist, we don't give advice at all, like not even a little bit. But that was the thought behind it. I always knew I wanted to help people. And as a kid, I remember hosting interventions for my dad at like 10 years old. He was a heroin addict and an alcoholic, like legit. I wish I was lying. Yeah. And so I remember hosting interventions for my dad and trying to do whatever I could to get him to quit his addiction to heroin. My mom did everything she could to distract us. She put us in pageants. She put us in modeling, commercials, you name it. She did all of those things to try to mask the things that were going on in the family.
Is that in California or?
Yeah, in California. Yeah. And so, there were several conversations I had with my mom because my dad would hit my mom. There was a lot of domestic violence happening. So there's several conversations I had with my mom, saying, if you leave, we'll be okay. And I'm like a little kid saying, Mom, I'll get a job. Like, we will figure this out. Right. And Mom, of course, did not leave. I loved my dad. I loved my dad. However, my dad had a disease. And I got tired of being reminded that his addiction was more important than our family. His addiction was more important than our safety. And so growing up, it was as if, I had to figure out this formula. I had to figure out this formula to save my mom, to save the family. So I was really big with education. I ended up getting recruited into this program for underprivileged youth. It was called Upward Bound. And never forget, like, this one exercise they had us all do. That's one of the primary reasons why I'm here today. And what they did was they said, they asked us to go ahead and all stand up. And we were at UCSD, which was like crazy because I'd never stepped foot into a university or never thought I would.
You're in high school?
I was probably like 13. Yeah, I was probably like 13, 14 years old. I believe I was a freshman. Freshman. So how old are you when you're a freshman? 14? I think I was like 14.
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah. And so, everybody, they tell us, we want you to go ahead and introduce yourself as your future self. And so I remember being so excited. Like, I already knew what I was going to say. I knew how I was going to say it. And so I was like waiting for my turn, and we're at UCSD in this big old classroom. I thought it was an auditorium. It wasn't, but there's this big old classroom, and there's like hundreds of students. It felt like hundreds. Maybe there was only 100. Who knows? But like, I remember like everybody getting up, and each one would like stand up and say, "Hi, my name is so-and-so. I'm a lawyer. Hi, my name is so-so. I'm a doctor." And I'm like, losers. Like, it's just like copy paste, right? Copy paste. And it was my turn. I just shot up and I was like, "Hello, my name is Veronica Flores. I'm a licensed clinician and I own my own private practice." And I like sat down. I don't even know what the hell that meant. I didn't know what that entailed, like how to go about being a therapist, what a private practice was. But I knew, like, it was just as if, like, I don't even know how I developed those words, but it was something like, this is what I'm here for. This is what I'm meant to do, right?
Yeah.
And little by little in my life, like, I went to UCSD and there were so many different opportunities that I was introduced to. And every single opportunity I wanted to learn more about, anybody that I met that I admired or felt inspired by, I would ask them a bunch of questions. And so, yeah, I ended up I went to undergrad for psychology, got my psychology degree, and then there was time because, of course, I got pregnant. And, having all the kids, right? Totally got pregnant, had all the kids. And undergrad, I remember going to a couple of my classes with my daughter. My oldest, she's 21 now. And my professor was totally cool with it. And so, yeah, I would go to school, with her little, it was like the travel video. It wasn't a laptop. That didn't exist back then. But she would go with her little thingy and, she'd be giggling in class and the whole classroom would be laughing because we're in like deep into lecture. I took a break. I had my second child, took a break. We moved to New York. And then my third child had, and decided it's time for me to actually do what I was meant to do. So got accepted to grad school, which was like so crazy. And it was just like little by little. I didn't know. I knew I was meant to do something big. I've always known I'm meant to do something big, but I don't know, like, how do I get on that path? Like, where's the big path? Like, wherever the big path is, where are the signs? I didn't know.
There wasn't a neon sign that said this way
to for reals. Like, I was looking for it. Don't get me. I was looking. Homegirl was looking.
Manifested the dream.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've never thought about it that way, Jennifer. But yeah, totally. But little by little, I ended up landing this amazing internship that I wasn't even supposed to land at all. My school actually had a conversation with me and told me there is no way we are hiring attorneys for you to intern at the hospital. We don't have a contract with them. We're not going to hire attorneys to only have one student contracted with them. And now they have a contract. They have several students from my school, from my graduate program that actually intern at that hospital. You're welcome. But yes, it was like little things. So I started working at the hospital and learned as much as I could about private practice, worked for group practice for a while, and then felt like I'm getting closer to finding the formula. And I didn't realize that that's what was going on, and that was part of my drive. And I'll tell you more about that in a minute. But I ended up getting my license, and I knew right away I'm going to open up my own practice, and I'm not going to accept insurance. I'm going to give my clients like full care, unlimited. I'm not going to be restricted by an insurance company. I'm going to give them hardcore, no Band-Aid therapy. Like, it's going to be legit. And yeah, I opened up my practice and I was scared out of my mind, like literally scared shitless. Good amount of my clients were coming from the hospital. And then it got to a point where I couldn't accept any more clients. And so I would refer out to my colleagues. And after a while, I was like, wait a minute, why am I doing this? Like, I can actually train clinicians to do what I do. And so let me do that. And so I started with one and slowly started building. Right now we're at 5. We're currently hiring. So if you know somebody, hit me up. But yeah, we just
all in California again. So you would love
this is all of this in California. Yeah.
And this is outside the norm.
Outside the norm counseling. Yeah.
Successful group practice.
Yes. I did all of this. I ended up graduating.
Where was this? What are you talking about when you started this practice?
So I graduated 2014. Yeah, 2014.
So good aged kids too.
Yeah, my husband was, so I received my master's degree while my husband was deployed.
Oh, and you had 3 kids at home.
And I have 3 kids. Yeah, girl, I was a single mom. Like,
yeah, I mean,
totally.
You're talking to him maybe occasionally, but there's no actual support there. That's crazy.
No. My schedule, like, because I was also interning. So I was going to school full time and I was at a full-time internship, and I was raising 3 kids. Yeah, I did not sleep, like, at all.
You
Not even a little bit.
look
So
great.
thank you. I'm well rested now.
Yes.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, there was just always this desire to do more, like, and serve the community and really figure out, like, and learn more about me. Like, and that's ultimately what this journey ended up being. You know, I remember in my internship, there was client or patients that would open up about their pains. And although I didn't go through the exact scenarios or events that they had endured, um, that pain, I recognize that pain so well. It's like, dude, me too. We should talk to somebody. And here I am wearing the badge, and I'm the person they're supposed to talk to. Luckily, my supervisor was there, but I'm just like, oh shit, we need to get help. Like, we need to get help stat. I'm like, we need to, I'm like, oh, that's totally me. I'm help. Like, that's me. I need more training. So it's just, I literally engulfed myself in learning more about me, learning more about my own insecurities, the issues that I brought into my relationships with my husband, the issues I brought into me as a mom. Cause I mean, we could film a whole nother video on that. But there were so many things that I wanted to learn about myself. And it was through learning about myself and like cutting the bullshit, being straight up with all of the insecurities I had, with everything being exposed, that I started to develop myself as a clinician. And people wanted more. People wanted to meet with me, and they didn't care how much I charged. They didn't care like if they had to wait. They wanted to meet with me. And it was through that I was able to train clinicians to go ahead and do the same thing. And that's not easy. It is not easy to look at your own shit and like look at it and say, okay, this is mine, and be able to connect with your clients. And that is really what has helped set me apart from everybody else. When I'm meeting with my clients, this is me. Like, I am a flawed human being that just so happens to have some pretty cool tools, and is going to challenge the hell out of you outside of your comfort zone to get you to where you want to be, not where I want you to be.
Right. So you were doing this when was your husband still gone when you opened this practice, or had he come back? And
So yeah. So under our graduate school, there was a time when my husband was in Afghanistan. And then from Afghanistan, he ended up, so 7-month deployment in Afghanistan, war, blown up twice. And then 7 months deployed to on we call it on float, on a MEU. So my husband was on a ship training and doing all of these things in Okinawa. So he missed my graduation when I graduated graduate school. And then I graduate, and thank you, military. My husband received orders to move to Missouri for 3 years, right after I graduated.
Y'all went to Missouri?
Hell no. So I shouldn't say right. Well, less than a year after I graduated from grad school, and I was like, we had orders to move to Missouri, and I'm trying to finish up my hours. You have to do 3,000 hours after you graduate of training. And it was like, I am like right there. I've been on the path. I'm on it. I'm getting closer. Sorry, homeboy, you're going to Missouri by yourself. Like, there's no way in hell, right? I'm so close. There's no way I'm going. So my husband ended up moving to Missouri, and I'm a single mom again, and finishing up my hours. And once my hours were finished, once I passed my license exam. So I'm finishing up my hours, studying for the licensure, which is like a crazy hard exam. You have 2 exams, because why not? California laws are, I mean, they're amazing. They're put in place to protect, right? Clients, which is great. However, the tests are like ridiculously hard. So, yeah, had to study, do all of those things, and open up my practice while my husband was, in Missouri.
Did he do the full 3 years there?
So he ended up doing, I want to say he did 1 year, and then he ended up retiring. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I know your background. I've listened to your podcast. I've worked with you. So I know how this escalates. He came back in the picture and was not part of the family schedule. He was just like there.
Yeah.
And you
No.
guys had issues. You almost got divorced. You're
Yeah.
launching your podcast, Empowered and Unapologetic, talks a lot about what couples can do to avoid the brink of divorce. So I skipped a whole backstory to get to there. But when did you decide that you were launching your podcast? How did that become part of what you wanted to do with your practice?
So we almost got a divorce. This was before we had kids, or when we had our first child. That's when we almost got divorced. But Willie and I endured a great amount of struggles with him coming back, and me now being this high achieving woman that wasn't apologizing or wasn't gonna wash dishes or make dinner. Like, that shit was not happening. Like, hell no. Not that there's anything bad with that, like, do you, but not me. So with the podcast started about a little over 3 years ago during COVID. Willie was already back. But
Wow, it grew really fast. I thought it was longer than that.
no.
Oh man, yeah, your podcast grew really fast.
Yeah. So the podcast happened during COVID. And with the podcast, all of these clients are coming in. And a good majority of the women that are coming in, because it was mostly women for me, good majority of women that were coming in, they were all struggling with the same thing. They're all these high achieving, badass entrepreneurs, multi-million-dollar companies, lawyers, high level executives, business owners. And they're all coming in saying, I'm tired of compromising who I am to protect my husband's emotions. My husband doesn't understand me, and my friends don't understand me, and I feel alone. And I'm experiencing all of these emotions and all of these feelings, and I don't quite know what they are. And quite frankly, I don't have time for them. I have shit that I need to get done. I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner, I'm high level executive. I don't have time for, panic attacks or whatever the fuck these things are called. Like, I don't have time for that. I didn't sign up for it. So help me get rid of them. Tell me what to do so I can move on with my life. And by the way, also help me with my relationship, because I think I'm ready to divorce my husband, because I don't feel like he's ever going to get on the same page as I am. And I'm tired of trying to get him to change, because he's struggling with how much money I'm making. And he has his own insecurities. So help me with that too. Thank you so much. And so the same thing was right. By the way, like, I'm having all these symptoms, but my marriage is, and my marriage is failing. So if you can hit me up if you can fix both, awesome. And
formula to fix it all.
Exactly. And I don't think my kids like me. Well, they do like me, but maybe they're also mad. And my husband keeps on telling me he's tired of competing with my job. So if you can figure all of that out for me, that would be awesome. And so I ended up developing a podcast, because it's like, wait a minute. I experienced this. I for damn sure relate with everything they're saying, and they're experiencing this. Well, if only I could have reached out to them maybe 6 months ago or a year ago, before they started developing symptoms of depression, symptoms of anxiety, and even passive suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
If I could have got to them then, they would be better off. They would be so much better off, And so how can I serve them early on? And I can't tell you how many people are like, but Veronica, that would be like talking yourself out of a job. And it's like, I could give two shits. I don't care. If I can help women, I didn't know that there was this type of help back then. I had no clue, right? And so if I can go ahead and provide them with real help, like not this bullshit deep breathing and positive affirmation stuff, but really developing an understanding of what this is and why they're recreating their childhood, or why they're, continuing these patterns, well, then I'd be able to serve, and I'd be able to help so many women, and those women would go ahead and share it with other women, and I would be able to help women that I've never met with. And that's when Empowered and Unapologetic, was born, I guess. It was focused on like me just being real and honest about like all of the shit that me and Willie have gone through, and not holding back. Like it's legit, like straight up, this is what I've gone through. And luckily, Willie was on board, and we've gone through our own work, a lot of work, right? In getting our relationship to where it's at today. We're about to celebrate 25 years of marriage.
Ooh,
And we've done, yeah.
I love when he comes on the podcast. I cannot get enough of your husband.
I know. He's like, was she for real when she said that? And I'm like, babe, yes, she was. They love you on the podcast. Yeah, they love you on the podcast. But like that goes like us being there. Don't get me wrong, we're not perfect. There's times I want to shake the shit out of him. And like we've gone through a lot of work, a lot of like our own personal work to figure out who we both are outside of the marriage, like independently, so that we can be interdependent. And that's what I teach women. I teach women how to go ahead and, really challenge them outside of their comfort zone and identify some of the insecurities that they're bringing in. You're a badass. And let's talk about some of the shit that you're brushing under the rug.
Yeah. So what came first? Chicken or the egg question. Was the podcast first, or was it the Veronica Cisneros.com like coaching? Like, or did they go hand in hand? Were you like, I can do both? I can do all three because you're.
I can do it all. Fuck it. No. So
all this stuff. I'm the best. Do it.
Did it, done it, doing it.
Yeah. And you are. So it's like clearly you're doing it right. So
well. I don't know if I'm doing it perfectly, but it's definitely a mixture of chaos and times where I'm like, what am I doing? And then being open and honest about like those moments. So it was my group. So my private practice to my group practice to the podcast to, from the podcast, I did a retreat. I hosted a retreat, and that was like, holy shit, this is what I'm totally meant to do. Because I was able to just be there. It was a lot quicker than, obviously it wasn't therapy, but it was just being able to see all of the transformation happen in like 2 days versus seeing it all happen like in so many months. So it was a retreat, and then from the retreat, it started developing into me asking, what does the audience want? And from there, it was like, we want a workshop, we want a course, can you do lives on Instagram or, on social media? So it was literally me just really listening to what these women were, wanting, and in what ways can I truly serve them? Because I want to, whatever they're asking, some of the stuff I couldn't do. But for the most part, it's like, dude, I've been there. I have gone through it. Let's rock and roll.
Yeah. How did you, okay, I want to go back to when you had your private practice by yourself. How were you like creating this wait list? Was it totally word of mouth? Were you, let's see, that was 2014. So social media was around, but it wasn't near the
girl. I did not have a website. I did not have a website. Yeah, I did not have a website.
A website then?
There was no social media. Like, I didn't even know I could do this on social media. Like, there was no social media. So when I didn't really start doing social media until, God, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. I didn't start doing social media. So way before that, no, the clients were all word of mouth. Like the clients that are here, none of my clinicians advertise for themselves. They don't have to. I'm able to fill every single one of them in, like when a new hire, I'm able to fill them in about 2.5 months. And it's all private pay. There's no insurance.
That's amazing.
And all of that is primarily through word of mouth. Now it's through the podcast. Now it's through also social media and people getting to know me as a person. But yeah, it was the type of care that I provided, and people were coming to me, like counselors and, therapists, surgeons, people that owned urgent cares were coming to me. And through the work that I did with them and what they experienced with me, and that life-changing experience, they were able to go ahead and share with their patients. They were able to share with their friends, their family. And so that's how I started to grow.
Oh, sorry. I don't know if you can hear my dog in the background. Apparently the mailman's here. They have to attack him. So you have this private practice, then you start moving into this group practice, and then now you've done this podcast. Okay, so what are you working on now? I mean, we kind of know what you're working on, but you're still going. Like, you still got all these things in the pipeline. Like,
Yes,
you want to
absolutely. So my main goal is to be intentional with my life, be intentional with my husband, be intentional with my kids, be intentional with myself. And through that journey, I've started to realize, like, holy shit, I want to do all of the things. And it kind of goes with that saying, just because I want to do all the things and I could do all of the things doesn't mean I should do all of the things. And so in having those conversations with other women like me, I ended up going to the summit. And people would ask me, what do you do? And I was like, oh, I help reignite marriages. And they're like, oh, that's cool. And then I was talking to one of my friends that I ended up going to the summit with, and her and I just started talking, and I started helping her. And after that conversation, it was like, Veronica, well, what do you do? And so just started thinking about it, didn't come up with anything, went to sleep. And the next day at this women's summit, somebody asked, because that's what you're doing, right? You're meeting people. What do you do? Blah, blah, blah. And so this one girl asked me, she's like, so what do you do? And I was like, I teach high achieving women how to stay married. And she's like, what? And everybody automatically turned around. And one of them shouted, can you teach my husband how to stop getting his panties in a bunch just because I make more money than him? I was just like, that is it. That is it. I teach higher achieving women how to stay married. And that, like, every single time I said that, it was like, I need your help. I need your help. And when I would talk to them, they're like, you're no bullshit. And I was like, well, no, it's straight up. And so I ended up recording a podcast series with a bunch of high achieving, badass entrepreneurs, high level executives. Ended up doing a podcast with them. Jennifer was a part of that podcast. Duh. And so I ended up doing that podcast. And one thing that came up over and over that I can totally resonate with is not a lot of people understand us. Not a lot of people get our drive. Not a lot of people, can provide us with compassion. There's a lot of judgments. And there is a lot of times where we feel lonely. We're surrounded by people, we're surrounded by our husband, family, whatever, but because nobody really understands us, it feels lonely. And so after doing that podcast series, I ended up asking everybody, what do you want? What do in what ways can I best serve you? And all of them were like, can you create a secret society, like a secret community where it's just us and we have these conversations and we're able to go ahead and speak freely and learn skills on how to establish a healthy relationship. And I was like, I could totally do that. And so this is where EmpowerX has come alive. Well, we're slowly creating her. And yeah, we're creating a community of women, of high achieving women, so that they no longer feel alone, so that they learn the skills to have a truly healthy, successful life, not only in their career, but all around, without apologizing, without the guilt.
Well, and it's not going to be like a group where you come in and, those awful Facebook mom groups where people just shit on each other and judge.
Hell no.
How do you, even in your women's retreat, how do you stop that from happening? I feel like it's like a gross natural thing that women, maybe not just women, but I notice it more because I'm more women, but how do you stop that?
So there's definitely going to be a questionnaire that everybody's going to have to fill out. And definitely being able to identify who those women are very quickly. I ran groups for 5 years, and there were women's groups. And so I'd like to say that I am very, very good at picking out who those people are very, very quickly, challenging them outside of their comfort zone, recognizing what is it exactly that there's this strong desire, strong need to maybe be the center of attention, or maybe just like say all of the things and talk shit about everybody. Be able to go ahead and wrap that up very, very quickly. And when I mean quickly, I mean maybe they have a few sentences, and then it's wrapped up, redirected, and we're back on game. So there's a lot of training that I've had to do to be able to get that done. But I've ran groups for 5 years, and they happen to be groups where people had a diagnosis that was all about being the center of attention. And so I had a whole group of them. And so with that, yeah, being able to go out and spot it, redirect it, and go back to it.
Yeah.
It's kind of my specialty.
And so what are the women getting out besides just being able to talk to each other?
Absolutely. So the biggest thing that we'll be doing, we'll be filling out questionnaire forms. So they'll be able to go ahead and identify what their struggles are. This is going to be definitely a growing phase. I will be teaching them skills. This is not therapy. This is education. I will be teaching them skills on how to identify some of the issues that they're bringing into the relationship. I'm not going to be diagnosing anybody. This isn't going to be, anxiety treatment, depression treatment, not at all. This is identifying what are the issues you're bringing into the relationship with regards to, are you positioning yourself higher than your husband? Are you using criticism when you argue with your husband? What insecurities do you have about the growth, that you've achieved? Because with growth, a lot of people don't understand, like there are a great amount of insecurities that come along with growth. So it will be laser focused on providing these women with skills and education so that they're able to implement it right off the bat with their relationships with themselves. So not only are they growing in their relationship, in their marriage, they're also growing and modeling healthy behavior for their children. And they're not burning out. They're not compromising themselves and overwhelming themselves with all of these things to do. So yeah, we're looking at monthly meetings where, again,
so I know you've been doing a lot of what are they're not lives on Instagram, they're just like pre-recorded where you give both viewpoints, and I think those are so relatable. Like, they're either not verbatim conversations I've had with my husband, or just thoughts like that have popped in. And so how do you coach these women to do better themselves, but then like what about their husband? Like what do you encourage them to do with their husband? Like,
Can women succeed in this if their husbands are not included?
This is a beautiful question. I get this all the time. How do I get my husband to see that there's a problem? Like I get this all the time. So oftentimes, with all of these things that we're doing, right? You guys are both high achieving women. With all of these things that we're doing, we want to get our husbands on board. And it's not like they have to change the world or anything, but like, homeboy, let's do something, right? Like, let's experience some change. I'm changing. Like, I'd like you to change. And so the biggest thing is we get stuck. A lot of women get stuck. From what I've seen is a lot of women get stuck on, well, I can't do it until he does it. Or, you know what, that's it. I'm going to end the relationship. It ends up becoming this extreme behavior, this all or nothing thinking, right? And what I teach them is recognizing what insecurities is that attached to. Ultimately, what are you afraid of? So you're growing. Your partner has all of these insecurities. Why do you feel like you have to be the one to protect him or encourage him or be his motivation to grow, to change? And most of the time, what I find is women get stuck on what they see their husbands can potentially be. They refuse to accept their husbands for who they are and who they're not. And so, yes, your husband has the potential to change the world. Now, does he want to? And if he doesn't want to, can you be okay with that? Can you truly be okay with that? And a lot of women get stuck with, well, no, wait a minute. No, well, wait a minute. Why not? Why not? we're not here to bash your husband. We're here to understand him. What are you refusing to understand? Well, I mean, if he stays here, then what does that mean? Yeah, tell me, what does that mean? Well, do I have to provide financial security for the family? Let's talk more about that. Let's talk more about that financial security fear. And what we end up finding is it's not that they don't love their husband. And it's not that they want to leave their husband. There's a lot of resentment that has grown in the relationship, but they haven't attacked it. They haven't learned the skills to go ahead and get through that. And what we found with all the women that I've worked with through similar coaching programs is they stopped paying attention to all of the small things that their partner was doing. They stopped paying attention to it. And so they were only laser focused on all the things their husband wasn't doing. And once we shifted that mindset, there started to be this level of appreciation, fondness, and admiration towards their partner. They started to become more and more intimate with their partner, more attracted to their partner. The partner didn't change. It was just that mindset shifted. And a lot of women are like, wait a minute, how do we do that? Well, we do that through the skills that I'm going to be teaching you, right? But there is that, I mean, you married him for a reason. So let's go back to that. And let's go back to why he really isn't helping you, because you criticized him and you judged everything that he did do, and he didn't do it in a timely manner, or he didn't do it the way you wanted to do it. Don't get me wrong. He has shit to fix too. I'm not saying that this is just the women. However, I noticed, like, in my own relationship, when I stopped focusing on all of the things my husband wasn't doing, and I started shifting it and paying attention to all the insecurities that I was bringing into the relationship and all the issues that I was bringing into the relationship as well, things started to change. And instead of forcing change in him, I inspired change. And so my husband didn't have his own business. Now he has his own business. And that wasn't me forcing him, even though I wanted him to have his own business for a very long time, just being honest. But I stopped putting that pressure and those expectations and that weight on the marriage, and slowly change started to happen. And so that's what I teach other women to do.
Yeah. It cracked me up because usually when we get through these conversations, at some point the therapist is saying, I didn't get taught business. I didn't get taught marketing. I didn't get taught growth. And now you're saying to the people who have been taught, who have gotten their MBAs or in some way educated themselves on business and finance, now you're teaching them, it's like, well, you know this, but you don't know how to communicate and that conflict and deal with your fears. And you have always looked for past that accelerate growth without, working on the foundation. I love the pleasant side.
Yeah. None of us were taught how to sustain a relationship, a healthy relationship, and our investment went to the wedding, and the honeymoon. However, it didn't go into ourselves. And so, I love how you just said that. I never thought about it that way, Jennifer. Yeah. Like, therapists weren't taught how to own a business. Executives weren't taught how to maintain a relationship, not only the relationship with themselves, but the relationship with their partners and their friends and their family, their kids.
So you kind of, I guess, started this whenever, unintentionally, I guess, in the back of your mind, you were building this when your marriage was kind of going down the can. I guess, right? Is that when you feel like maybe you started building all these, like, oh, that's what happened. That's what happened. Let me help you. But that was like there was a big space in time, but maybe it was because women weren't talking about it as much, or they just didn't know to talk about it. So it's just amazing that you've like filled this gap that I think a bunch of people knew that they had, but didn't know how to voice it.
Well, women weren't supposed to talk about their marriage. They weren't supposed to talk about finances, how much they earned, anything like that. Yeah. So I think you're right. From the beginning, when you were beginning this journey, is wildly different than what it is today.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, cool. Okay, Veronica, tell us how women can join.
Definitely.
Or apply to join.
Definitely. So you can actually apply to join right now. And Jennifer, you totally have the link. What is the link? I don't know it. I'm working with Jennifer to help me find.
us, but it's veronicacisneros.org
Org.
/empower-x.
There we go.
Hyphen out and do Empower
Yeah,
X.
Empower X. We'll take that
Empower
hyphen out.
X. There, yeah, take the hyphen out. So
it's on Veronica's website. We'll link it to the website, and I just cannot say enough about your efforts. And obviously, it is inspiring people. You're aligned with your audience, and you are growing amazingly. We're thrilled to work with you.
Yeah, I mean, and I would tell anybody who's on the fence, just go watch like some of her Instagrams. If you don't relate to at least 5 of them, then you're not ready yet, or you're not there yet. But you will immediately.
She's on TikTok now too. I was browsing through it the other day, and you said something, but it was funny. And then I swiped up and back down to replay because my husband was sitting on the couch. And, so I was like listening to it
indirectly.
Gonna replay that again as well. All right. Well, thank you, Veronica.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Oh, wait. Pause record.